Hi, everybody. Welcome to a podcast of Small Brain Small Talk, which is more serious topics, just kind of like a more serious vibe for a podcast. We have our hosts, myself, Lucas, and Sam, and
Hello.
we have our first guest today as Sean.
Hello.
All right. So the first episode for Big Brain is Zoomiversity, or just kind of our experiences with online college and online high school as it ended there. So I guess I can go first here, where I mean, all of us were online for our last trimester of high school, and I guess we're going to be online for the first semester of uh, my college so far, and it's been honestly kind of a vibe sometimes. It's not as fun and definitely not as learning intensive as in-person classes, but it's honestly not that bad for me, especially when I got my rhythm down of I know when this assignment is due, and I will do it, because it's a recurring assignment due every week, and I'll just do it on Sundays, and I know when another assignment is due. So for me, it's not that bad because I kind of got into a rhythm pretty quickly. What about you guys?
Uh, I can go actually. So, for me, online was a huge struggle throughout all of high school, all of college as now. High school, I forgot school existed for about 3 weeks into quarantine while I still had assignments due, and then the whole time was just catch up and struggling with staying motivated without seeing my teachers, seeing my friends, and being able to just do something else besides sit in my room and do homework or sit in my room and play video games. And I ended up towards the end of the year just spending a good hour going through all my classes and my grades, running them through a finals calculator, and seeing how many points I could miss before I could fail a class. So I just designated assignments of I need to do this and ignore this, and then the same thing is not happening in college. And I've definitely recognized that I'm online is a weakness for me. So I'm actually dropping out of college next semester to just pursue the workforce and try and pay off my loans because trying to go to school in COVID for me has just been a struggle.
Yeah. Do you plan on going back once COVID is kind of calmed down, or once in-person classes are going to return?
Yeah, I'm also switching majors, which definitely doesn't help, but
Hmm. Oh yeah.
it I'll be heading back once it cools off. And then Sean.
And what about you, Sean?
So I already had experience with doing online school because, uh, my freshman and sophomore year, I ended up doing this one thing called like Keystone or whatever. That's what my quote unquote high school did, where basically our actual grades came from an online school that we were required to do. Um, so when the whole online school thing started, at least adjusting to it wasn't like too bad, but definitely being motivated to actually work was the worst thing ever because it was pretty much like my obviously final trimester, and like what I was sad, I was alone, and then like my friends were just constantly playing League of Legends, and I was like, I'll do that too, and then I'd usually like try and cram and finish everything within like uh what is it, like all within just like the span of like 1 or 2 days. um my school didn't do pass or fail though, so instead I was left in this scenario where I had to actually get good grades, and my parents could see those grades, and they had very strict deadlines. So it was like the first week, um I was overwhelmed with everything, and so my statistics class, I kind of put it on like the back burner. And so, like on Friday, that teacher, he he emailed my mom about the fact that I hadn't touched the class yet, even though it was just the first week. And then, uh, yeah, it was really not favorable situation, and now I don't like that teacher. But after that, it was just pretty much don't do anything and then cram everything for like Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, I definitely, at least for high school, that was a lot of the things was I just because I mean, it's our school like went into emergency distance learning in March, and like our we canceled school for the rest of the year for like we had 3 days, and then we had spring break, and then we had to go into emergency distance learning, and that I mean they had a week and 3 days to plan an entire like trimesters or like a third of the year's worth of stuff for online. And of course, some teachers are older, and it's harder for them to adapt to modern technology. So I felt really bad for the teachers just because like all the kids, kind of blamed them for it. But and of course, it's both the teachers and the situation. But like, I feel bad for the teachers that had to emergency adapt to like online learning just because like they taught in person like physical teaching for 20 some 20 30 plus years. Now they have to teach everything online, and like none of them are used to that, just like we are.
Yeah, like my school, since it was a boarding school, pretty much in person was like all they've known for like what 100 plus years. So when all of a sudden all this COVID stuff was happening, on top of the fact that like they're like, oh, we got to return everyone back home. Some of them being as far as like Japan and America and whatnot. Like how do we get somebody all the way from like Kenya to like America, which is like already like closing their borders on many countries and stuff like that. Um, it was a bother. And on top of that, some of the teachers just they got really depressed just kind of being on campus, but there's nobody there.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, some of them really gave up. Uh, this one teacher named Mr. Kingsbury, he's infamous for how complicated he makes his class with like papers and video projects and like 40-minute PowerPoints that you have to present to the class and stuff like that. His courses just were like read textbook, uh, fill in quiz, open book, open notes, and then the final was write a 500-word essay about what you learned this trimester. And we were all just like really sad because we didn't expect it from him.
Yeah, I think for right now, I'm going to community college just because I want to get a PhD, and with my situation right now with work, I can move up to an assistant manager, which I can talk more about in another Zoom or another podcast. But to go up to an assistant manager, you need a college degree, and a 2-year college degree is still a college degree. So I wanted to save money, and I got good enough scholarships and financial aid, and even Normandale, the community college I'm going to now, gave a free $500 scholarship to every student just to help pay tuition and help to pay books, which is really nice. But that helped a little bit overpay my tuition. So I got technically I they cut me a check for like $800 to go to school, and of course that $800 I have to save and use for school stuff. But it's nice to like I get lucked out where I'm getting paid to go to college, so I'm not wasting money at all, which is really nice for me. But I feel bad for like the people who are just going to their 4-year college or like finishing up their senior year and doing like their super expensive or super not expensive, but the super rigorous courses for like people, especially getting like doctorate degrees or like doctors who are starting their residency and stuff like that. Just how much that would have to suck compared to us just kind of finishing high school.
So
But I don't think it's been easy for anybody.
so earlier on, Lucas, you mentioned talk the 4-year school and quality. So you feel bad for some people who are still having to pay, boatloads of money just to go to college, whereas you're getting paid. Do you? I'm a firm believer that the reason I call it Zoom University is because I don't feel like I'm going to my college, which is NDSU. I feel like I'm going to Zoom University. It's a term I believe coined by mass media to reference what the last semester and first semester of 2020 has been, which is I don't know the faces of one of my teachers. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what he sounds like. I haven't been. I had one in-person class this year for geology. I have not been able to go to that class uh, since September, like second week of September. I haven't been to that class, uh, and he doesn't offer Zoom because he doesn't believe in Zoom. So for me as an online student, I'm just treating my time here as an online student is completely gone. I don't get to see any of his lectures. I don't get to talk to him personally. I don't get to understand why he chose. He does songs of the day. I don't know why he chose it. I had to listen to some Imagine Dragons song. I don't know why. I just did, and it feels really bad. So I don't know if you guys kind of feel like your quality is dropped thanks to online, or maybe some teachers are able to excel in it. But I know Sean, you said one teacher who used to do really complicated 40-minute PowerPoints, video presentations, which I feel like would be really cool as a student because that's more akin to what you're doing in the workforce, which is like difficult projects that you have to teach yourself about. Do
Yeah.
you so and you said that it was just textbooks. Do you feel like you got a lower quality education because of that?
Yeah, I feel like I did. Even though it was obviously really stressful and whatnot to do those type of assignments, in the end, the actual the 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 trimesters I remember with him, like, are the ones that didn't happen because he actually made you like think and research and actually apply what you learned compared to just like look at textbook and fill in the answers on the quiz, which was, yeah, it was a bit of a bummer, but it was understandable. He wasn't experienced in that sort of thing of having to do emergency high school and whatnot.
And then Lucas, you got anything on quality?
It was definitely some teachers. I was in three AP classes at the last semester or trimester of my high school. At least for the AP classes, it was so hard to prepare for the AP test because everything was in person, and especially for economics, the first two trimesters were macro and micro, but the AP tests were in the third trimester. So every year, um, the teacher has some big study sessions after school just so we can prepare for the test, but we couldn't have those this year. So it was hard for that, and I definitely felt like I got a worse education. But especially with so my plan is to get a doctorate or a PhD in psychology or neuroscience. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between the two because they're both similar fields, but and like my passion. But one of my classes right now is like an intro to sociology, and the entire semester there are 9 assignments, 3 papers, 3 lecture quizzes, and 3 um, uh, like textbook quizzes or like book quizzes. But I've never met my teacher, and I mean, she'll give an assignment for 9 assignments for however long the semester is. And like every week or so, she'll post up saying, like, "Hey, read this chapter, do your paper. It's due by this." And I've put maybe like this is a overestimate probably a solid 2 hours into that class, and I have 100%. And it's been half a semester, and I haven't learned anything. I put like half an hour into one paper and got 100% on it. So it's just like sociology is it's a part of psychology because it's in like similar, but I just don't think I'm getting as good an education, and I think I'm a little worried because if I want to pursue psychology and sociology, I want to get a good education, so when I take those like more in-depth classes when I finish my undergraduate degree and go into graduate school, that I'm able to have a good understanding. But with like Zoomiversity and completely online colleges, I just don't have um, as good hope as I do if I had them in person because it's just not the same.
And you mentioned so Lucas, you talked about it a bit with your teacher. You don't know your teacher, but Sean, you directly said your teachers felt depressed, right? Uh, just being an online school. Many of them are passionate probably about teaching, but they just cannot show that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, they even what was it? Before before the before the trimester even ended, and like the year was over and we graduated, I think it was like 2/3 of them had already left the campus to just go back to like whatever their home country is, because they just were like it's too much. And so now one of the new problems the high school has to face right now as they try to reopen is trying to gather back all those teachers with all the travel restrictions and whatnot.
And yeah, so I imagine trying to work around even just because you probably have to require work visas as well for those
Oh yeah.
teachers, so they're getting visas, getting plane tickets, and then also convincing them, hey, come back here. I know we're not even close to the tail end of COVID, but come back to school and start teaching again.
Yeah, it's it's a rocker. But I should probably mention that something my high school did, which was really kind of them, is that they didn't they obviously predicted that there would be a change in the whole quality of school. So they tuition was dropped by like a massive amount, like crazy. Since we aren't boarding or anything like that, they're pretty much like all you're gonna pay for is pretty much like the the learning, I guess, you know. And so like I remember, was it it got so low, my mom was able to just pay like the tuition just out of pocket.
I
So,
really wish American universities would take a hint with that,
yeah, I mean, I wish colleges could do that, but
but
I can't complain right now since I'm kind of on full ride. But yeah.
yeah, I really wish I was on full ride. But so teachers are teachers are depressed. We know students are depressed about this. Uh, mentally, you can literally Google COVID mental health struggles, and CDC article will
God,
be
yeah.
it will be the first about 15 search results. And Lucas, you talked about it with being prepared for your major. I personally, so I'm going into communications field. I would be, is what I wanted to do, but spending these 2.5 months that I've spent working on this major, I do not like it anymore. My quality of education has been really low. I had one teacher that made me buy a textbook in order to attend her class. Like I couldn't go in person into her class unless I bought this textbook. I haven't used it yet. She hasn't mentioned it, and my guess is that's an old policy from when she was full in person. But since the teacher herself, is lost in Zoom, there are just times where we don't have class. We get in and we just spend an hour talking about video games, and the class ends. Good thing I had my midterm this Friday. Uh, luckily, I got a good score on that because it's communications, so it's early communications is just true common sense, sadly. But this whole pandemic has just made me hate my major. This was something that I wanted to do for about 4 years before coming here, and within 2 weeks, I was already searching for other schools and fields. However, what do you think? We got Lucas. I know you're going into a doctorate's program, but Sean,
Hopefully. Oh yeah, hopefully.
hopefully, and Sean, what about you? Do you think you'll be prepared for your major?
Uh, Barely. I'm okay. Maybe not. It all depends on how it goes. But I'm going for a criminal justice degree. Probably the greatest thing to go for right now. But um, like my class, I haven't seen the teacher's face. I haven't heard I believe it's a he, so I haven't heard his voice. Um, and like I had some technical difficulties where I couldn't get like the online textbook in course. Like the key that was sent out or whatever didn't work for me. And so I emailed the teacher and then the teacher didn't respond back to me, and instead he sent out an email to the entire class saying that like the key works or whatever. And then in the end, I just had to buy the book myself, which I believe the purchasing of the books is like included in my tuition or whatever. It was only $80, so I wasn't like gonna weep about it. But like that's my only interaction I've ever had with a teacher was just the teacher basically subtweeting me to the entire class that his key works or like the course key works. I got nothing done, and then I had to spend money which was already included in my tuition. Um,
And you probably
but
won't get that money back, I imagine.
yeah, and then what is it? There's like, and then the class is like asynchronous, so pretty much like it's like we'll have like there's 4 exams for the entire course, and then there's actually an exam due today by midnight, so I should probably get on that eventually. But pretty much you just work on you do the exam, and that's like the only thing that's really time focused. But the rest is pretty much completed by complete whatever like complete the assignments by the end of the like semester, and that's it. It's kind of
Yeah. Like you said, with not knowing any of your teacher's face. So I'm taking 4 classes. I'm taking intro psychology, intro sociology, intro philosophy, and a human genetics class. And so the psychology and human genetics classes are the only ones we have synchronous meetings every Tuesday. Like the genetics one is from like 11 to like 11:50, and the psychology one is from like 2 to 3:50. But that's the only time I ever get to see my teachers. And for like the philosophy and sociology one, I've never met my teachers, and I probably never will, just because I mean, the college I'm going to, Normandale, has stated that they are going to be online for the rest of the year. Like even, I mean, of course, winter semester because our semester is kind of coming to an end. We're about halfway through, and COVID looks to be nowhere near done. Um, so I honestly may never see some of my teachers because it kind of depends on how everything goes next spring semester or next because I only need to be at Normandale for 3 semesters just because I have like the AP credit transfer it to enough to where I only need 3 semesters of these current college classes to be able to get my 2 year degree or associate's degree. So it's kind of weird to think I may never see some of my teachers I have, which is kind of a sad thing because some of like the big people in my life or like the important role models in my life have been teachers that are like super kind and super caring and like care so much about their kids that they teach and all and the subject that they're teaching that I may never be able to really understand, sociology or philosophy just because I've never and may never get to meet those teachers.
And so you mentioned teachers being a role model. I don't know, Sean, if you've ever had a teacher be a role model for you, have you?
do you guys okay, Lucas, did you ever go to Olson Middle School?
I went to Oak Grove. No, I did not.
Sam, I believe, yeah, you went to Olson.
I did.
Um,
Refrain
do you
from
remember
using
Mr.
names.
Anderson?
Uh,
Uh, who was like he was a math teacher.
I remember hearing
Uh,
about him.
um, anyways, there was a parent teacher conference where he just mentioned he noticed how I was a guy who was really keen about things like politics and laws and stuff like that, and that I could probably be good in like being a lawyer, and from that like that one thing alone pretty much opened my eyes to the fact that hey, there is something that like I'm good at and that I can actually like focus on as like a career. So like yeah, I wouldn't say I
Yeah.
looked up to him, but like teachers really can like even if they never notice it, like if a teacher does it right, they can just move you.
And so I
Yeah.
imagine not being able to meet your teachers personally, that could really affect you and mentally, I imagine as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Oh
it's just
yeah, for sure.
I'm so glad that like my psychology class is kind of in person or not in person, but it's we have meetings on Zoom. I'm so glad that I'm able to at least have that one be synchronous because it's just psychology is a huge passion. And my previous psychology teacher, the first experience I've had like with teaching psychology, because I've been interested in it pretty much my entire life. Or just no, of course, when I was a kid, I was like, I want to talk to people for a living because I like talking. Um, and then I realized, psychology would be a good field as I, was old enough to understand what psychology meant. But my first experience with psychology, like the teacher I had cared so much about the subject and so much about his kids, like his kids that he taught. I don't think like I have other as big as a role model as I do as like my first psychology teacher. So it also just kind of must suck for those teachers because those teachers that care so much about teaching their kids just don't get to see them or get to see them over only over Zoom. And when I talk to my psychology professor in office hours, um, it's just I've asked him, what's the hardest part, about for him for Zoom, and he's like, just not being able to teach the kids in person. Like I can see you guys over Zoom, but it's so hard to read the room. It's so hard to know what you guys would need, know what you guys want help studying because everyone's just so nervous to talk in front of 30 other people that they've never met and probably never will meet. So I mean, it's just as hard for them because you know I don't think teachers get paid what they do and have to deal with what they do just for the money because they don't get paid enough. They do it because they like teaching kids and they like teaching. So it sucks for them too.
And Sean, do you have any mental health concerns with just online classes in general?
Um, Not for me. I just think really the biggest impact is education because I don't know, just it really kills your vibe. Like I probably didn't elaborate on it better, but like I don't feel prepared for my like for criminal justice at all, at least on the surface level of like the textbook, because I pretty much just read the summary of like each chapter, kind of cram it a little, and then maybe apply it a little bit to something I've heard in an article. And that's about it.
But I feel like that's kind of an overarching thing of schools being they stress results rather than the journey. So
Yeah,
you're
but I feel hmm?
you're like so focused on the results. You want that A in that class that you forget to actually learn the subject. You're just getting the knowledge that you need to pass the class, passing that class, and then forgetting it all. But I
Yeah,
feel like
Oh,
and
that
it's
definitely.
yeah, and it's just like online schooling just makes it way harder because you're just like it'll just be like what you have very little motivation because you're just cooped up inside all the time. Um, and then you'll just get like that one notification reminder message from your teacher that's like, oh, the exam for this thing is like in a week. So you just kind of like cram like the last couple of chapters so you can like complete the exam fine. And then you like the cycle repeats over and over. And it kind of
Yeah.
sucks.
That's definitely how I feel. Like I have, readings for psychology due every Monday and like, videos and a video quiz and I just do it all on Sunday just because, it's a day that I, get off work earlier. And it's a day that I'm like, oh, I can just, do a bunch of stuff Sunday because it's the day before it's due. It's due on, Monday mornings. And it's just, I mean, I learn because I love psychology so much, but I like other people in my class have expressed so much disinterest because it's like, I'm just not learning. I just don't care about this because all I'm doing is cramming it the day of, and I don't really feel like I'm learning anything.
I mean that's something that I really dislike about online school. Me personally is that I cannot differentiate since I couldn't leave my dorm, my like room for a week because I had a close contact scare. So I was locked inside, and there was no physical way for me to switch between I'm doing the only thing that I can, which is just play games on my computer, be on my computer, and then doing work. Like the only thing that I could do is I could change from a desktop that I have to a laptop and changing my chair, and that's just not enough. So I could never swap and focus into being school and learning. So I'd always just rush through the material, get the results in, and since every class currently is completion based and not score based, it's been hard to learn, I guess. And that's like one of my biggest dislikes of online school. So I'm just wondering that from you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's funny. My mom sent me a video about I think CGP Grey, who's one of the YouTubers I like because he does some
Oh yeah,
kind of
great
smart
guy.
some big brain smart stuff. But he said one of the biggest things that people have to learn is to separate video game fun time from school. Like he gave the idea and like the message saying one of the ways I do it is I cannot play video games on the same computer or in the same room or in the same setting that I do my work, like work from home. And I guess for us it's more video game or it's school not work, but it's he said to have a different like do your schoolwork on like a kitchen table or anywhere that's not like your bed or the same computer you use to game just because your mind is just so focused like on my bed I sleep here and I like watch YouTube here, so your brain is going to be like, oh, it's sleep or YouTube time because I'm sitting on my bed. Or if you're playing in the same or you use the same computer, it's like, oh, it's video game time or watch YouTube time on like second monitor or something. So you're just going to get your brain is not going to want to work because it's so used to playing video games and having fun time using that setting. But it's also really hard because not all of us have room or have like the money for a computer or like a phone and a laptop to to separate the two. But I think that's the easiest and the best way to make it better. But like it's so hard to always be able to do that.
Yeah, like what was it? I haven't really done any serious homework in like the past 2 weeks. You know, casual procrastination stuff. But like the one time that I actually like seriously worked on homework was yesterday at a friend's house while they were doing homework. And so yeah, like that, I usually don't play games at that friend's house. So it just ended up being that over there I ended up doing homework because my brain wasn't hardwired to open up League of Legends or open up a YouTube video as soon as I sat on my desk.
And I guess that's really, I imagine that's incredibly difficult to go somewhere else when we're constantly being told you cannot leave. You must stay in your room. Like my university, our county that our university is in, swapped to Code Orange just last week. So I can't get my own drink anymore at my dining center. I can't. I'm basically being told if I don't have a reason to be out, I need to be in my room. And
I'm unaware of what code orange means. Sorry.
it's basically just the levels of uh, COVID. I can link that in the description at the end of this, or just send you a link later. But
Hmm.
it's just a step up from yellow, which is the average that the whole country's in. Like reduced hours in restaurant, masks on, pretty much all the time. But it feels like I'm just constantly being babied and such, and it really sucks because I physically am incapable of swapping unless I'm in a different place. So I'm rarely getting homework done. I'm rarely able to try. It feels just so futile. I know there's a TED talk on the instant gratification monkey and procrastination.
Oh, speaking, I literally watched that the other day, like the instant gratification and like the procrastination monkey. I 100% watched that just the other day.
And I think
It
that,
was a great, yeah.
yeah, that's a great video just to describe almost everyone's experience with COVID and with school and COVID. But I want to talk about something a little better. Is do you feel like our schools will change after COVID ends, if and when that happens? Will we see a difference in education afterwards? Maybe by the time it ends, schools will be good at online schooling, so maybe there'll be more online options. Or do you feel like it'll just return to business as usual?
Uh, it's kind of hard to say. It kind of depends on the school, because for our school, we they offered online classes, like completely just online classes that you could just turn your stuff in and you'd be online. And a lot of people did it just because they're like, oh, I can just sit in the cafeteria and work on this. And I had like an online class because partially my girlfriend was doing it and we could sit in the cafeteria together and work on stuff and like do that kind of stuff. And partially it was like, I like this kind of online school. It allows me to work at my own pace, and I can work ahead or work, take time to work on other stuff, and I won't have to worry about specific deadlines. But it's so much different than Zoom online. So I really hope that colleges will start to be offer more online classes because now they're like, being forced to do online, and for some people online is better just because it allows them to like work at their own pace because some people have full-time jobs on top of learning. um, so I really do hope that most big universities learn and think of like, oh, this is a good option because now we've been forced to master learning online, that they start offering online classes. And hopefully some teachers will step up and say, hey, I wouldn't mind teaching an online class or two.
And I mean, Sean, we will? Do you think schooling will change after COVID's over?
Um, Probably not, or at least not in a big sense. It might just be me being really wanting in-person school stuff to happen again, but at least with colleges, they obviously don't want to change tuition.
Yeah.
And on top of that, a lot of people have come to college just kind of expecting, like, the college experience, like parties and that kind of stuff. And so a lot of people would probably still just want to go back to having in-person classes and having clubs and all of that stuff happen again. Um, I could only see universities really changing if COVID lasts like maybe another year after this year. So like if it lasts like 2 more semesters, maybe.
And I mean, you mentioned the college experience. So that was
Yeah.
a huge driving factor in me personally looking into college as a high school graduate is, oh, there's this huge college experience. It's these 4 years of your life that matter the most, and this college experience thing is what's going to outweigh the fact that I'm spending some of like the four most important years of my life still in school, still studying for something, spending 2 years of that just doing the same class as everyone else with generals, so not even getting to do something I enjoy for another until I'm 21, 22. So, do you are we missing out on the college experience?
Oh, most definitely. I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
so many people are just so done with college, or I mean, honestly, genuinely, I don't blame them for trying to take a break until COVID has calmed down. But no, I totally believe that everyone is justified in saying they are not getting a college experience. And you said, yeah, it's almost 4 important years of her life. Like for me, I mean, it's more, 6 to 8 years, and I'm a lucky, and I come from a different perspective than the majority, where I'm taking a community college because I'm getting paid to go there, and allows me to get a 2-year degree so I can do other important stuff like, focus on like getting another like a manager role, like an assistant manager at my age, because I was almost given the position, but I was required to have a college degree because that's in the job requirements. And a lot of other stuff are like job expectations, like age and like retail experience. But there's a requirement as a college degree, and I, of course, at my age, I didn't have a college degree. So if I was able to get a 2-year degree, I was able to do that, and that's why I'm doing this. And I'm more lucky because I'm just doing this to get my generals done before I transfer into a longer, um, another 2-year college and then another 4 years to get my doctorate degree. But yeah, no, I'm not having a college experience. And like I said before, I pity those people that are doing this 4-year degree and starting their majors, or people who are farther into college and just aren't freshmen like us, where they're in their last year, and like people who are like in their last year trying to get their doctorate degree, who have to do like their senior thesis, their gigantic paper, um, all online or something like that, or people who are just not getting the education that they need for the next couple of years. because of like this 1 year, um, or this, I guess, 1.5 years so far, that's just going to screw over their education. So I'm just worried for the future, of all these people who are in college and stuff too.
You know, it sucks. Like on like right now, I am genuinely considering like some sort of break or something like that because at least for me, something that really matters when I'm at school is, you know, it's the friends you make along the way and that kind of stuff like that. But it's really difficult for me to do so, or at least easily find the friends that can really carry me through when I have those days, when, there's I'm just like cooped up in my room, like the reason why I didn't do anything for like 2 weeks was just because like I got really bummed out because of something that happened. And I really just didn't feel like I had friends who could be there for me. So I just ended up just sleeping all the time, you know.
Yeah, and again, I can consider myself lucky because I didn't really have too many problems when it came to mental health, at least for college, just because I'm so excited to be in college and so excited to be in the field, so far doing the fields that I want to do and stuff. But I feel so bad for those people who aren't able to do it as much and who aren't able to work as well as I can when it comes to that. And just, like I said, with the teachers and all the students who just I can't see my friends. And I think it's sad that I wasn't able to see my friends one last time before they left and like all that stuff. Like before all my friends left to college, and unfortunately, my girlfriend and I broke up for I mean a number of reasons, but during COVID, and it's hard that we never really got to say goodbye because it had to be over FaceTime because we wanted to respect social distancing and everything. But it's just losing friends, not being able to say goodbye to everyone in your class or say goodbye to the teachers that you liked, and like stuff like that. It's so mentally damaging to some people because a lot of people may lose out on friends they could have had for life just because they weren't able to say, hey, let's stay in contact or exchange contact information with people who at high school that they may honestly never see again because COVID kind of ended in-person learning for such a long time.
And so you
It's
Yeah.
gonna
mentioned.
have.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was like for me, since my whole school was like a boarding international school, like some dudes are all the way in Korea, others in Japan, some in Britain. So when everything kind of started closing and we all had to get separated, we were all basically praying that we would get to see each other like one last time. And then when we were told like, oh, the final trimester is gonna be like is gonna be online, like that just broke me so bad because I was like, I can't see people like Charlie again in person unless like I fly all the way to Britain. What about like Caleb and Wapiang? I didn't even get like a proper goodbye with them, things like that. And I now just have these memories of just really incomplete goodbyes where we just kind of like looked at each other, just having hope that we would see each other like the next trimester.
And so you talked about incomplete goodbyes, and Lucas, you mentioned a bit of high school. I know, I remember my last experience and finding out, oh, hey, you don't have school anymore here, was talking to the speech captain coach. Uh, or not just the speech team captain at our school, and she was like, oh, yeah, season's canceled. So I lost out on my chances to try and compete to even go to state because state got canceled. So I never got to finish out my season on the team. Uh, no one ever said goodbye. I never said goodbye to any of my friends. I ended up completely abandoning my old group of friends just because of COVID. I haven't talked to them in over a year now, and I feel kind of bad about it, but uh, I have met a whole new group of friends, whole large amount of people that I've met thanks to COVID. But high school. A lot of people like to say high school is a huge time in our lives. You know, your first homecoming, your first prom, but uh,
Yeah, for a lot of people's first, so a lot of people, although it's not like the majority, a lot of people sometimes make their lifelong friends in high school. And like, a lot of people, have their first girlfriend, like their first serious relationship and all that stuff in high school. But I mean, we all got 3 and 2/3 year, so I'm glad I had the experience, but I just never got like the last prom. We never had a graduation ceremony, and to me, of course, graduation ceremony was just, I mean, it's the same for everybody. We all sit in an auditorium for 3 hours, but I mean, what we got instead was our principal driving to everyone's house individually, bringing his little boombox and microphone, playing Pomp and Circumstance while I walked across my yard. And that was it. He gave, we took a picture with the diploma, and that was my graduation. That was the culmination of my 4 years. Was that, and of course, I mean, I didn't really care
That
too
was
much about the
true.
graduation ceremony, but there's not really too much else that we could have got. So it sucks for those people who really did care about that, and like the senior prom and all that last stuff, and like um, those final goodbyes, and it's just like high school ended horribly for everybody. Like nobody enjoyed how high school ended. And that's
Yeah,
just kind of
well,
like it kind of makes you, it leaves like that bad taste in your mouth every time you think about like, oh, people you've never seen, people you've don't talk to anymore because you've never got to say goodbye to them. And like you said with banding a whole group of friends, like I have very few friends that I kept. I mean, half of it was because my girlfriend and I broke up, and um, it's not that I left that friend group because of that. It was just a combination of, some of the people in the friend group I was okay with not seeing again just because we weren't that close, but also like, it's a lot of her friends too, and I didn't want to, be in that group chat to make us both feel uncomfortable because we had just broken up, and I didn't want to be like, oh, Bella and I broke up, but we're both gonna be in the group chat and still talk and stuff like that. But for me, I'm not on campus, so I can't meet new people. And I've luckily met one person who I talk to now, and we play Minecraft together, and we play Among Us together. But other than that, I've barely been able to meet anybody new. Like the teachers force us into breakout rooms in Zoom where we talk about the assignment or just talk about stuff, and you know, he forces us to get those icebreaker questions like, oh, how was your long weekend, or how's Zoom going for you, or how is psychology class going for you, and stuff like that. But like I'm never able to see those people in person, so it's kind of hard for me to make new friends when I've already lost a huge majority of my friends due to COVID and like a breakup. So it just sucks that I'm not able to meet new friends. But I did. I was able to reconnect with people um, that I haven't seen in a long time, like Sean. We haven't seen each other since freshman year, and
yeah.
in groups like you, Sam. I haven't ever. I knew your friend group existed, but I never was hung out with you guys just because I had other friend groups. So it's nice to reconnect to some old friend groups that I was a part of, or like I have mutual friends in. But it's also hard to lose some of those friends that I've had for a long time because of high school, and now they're off in different states, busy with all their stuff. And it's hard to stay in contact with them.
It's a bit of a backtrack, but like, shout out to your principal, because like, honestly, that like that's like a big thing for him to just go around like personally and give like the diplomas and stuff, because so many schools either were just not able to, or just decided like, you know, we'll just make a YouTube video where we say everyone's name and that's it. And it happened to me, but it was like, I remember seeing like, I remember seeing JoJo's and stuff like that, and like JoJo's video of the principal visiting, and I was like, wow, that's just incredible. But yeah, stupid thing, but yeah, it really blew my mind when I saw it.
Hmm. Yeah, our former principal's an amazing guy. He's super nice. I'm so glad that he was able to do it.
Yeah.
So one fun thing I'd like to point out is I feel really bad for juniors, high school juniors.
Oh.
They probably aren't getting a prom. They
Oh God,
def
yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah, they don't have a senior homecoming. I never I mean, I personally I never went to a single homecoming. I never went to a prom. I think that was a big mistake in my life and I probably will never go to one as
Oh yeah.
I'm dropping out of college and I'm heading to a like more selective specific school and I can't imagine them having a prom. So I'm never going to get to experience a prom. I'm never going to get to experience a homecoming. And I mean, I don't feel bad necessarily. I definitely feel bad for homecoming because I skipped out on it. I specifically picked up a shift on the day of homecoming so I wouldn't go to homecoming every year, thinking that, oh yeah, I could just go next year. And then, I mean, now I'm sitting here in my chair, never doing that. Uh, and that's like one of the things that has come up personally with just being in online school and being in COVID. I've had so much time to reflect on either past just like social mistakes. Now that it's gone, my option to socialize, it feels really awful. And I'm kind of just wondering if you guys have experienced any of that, just like backtracking on your own life, and how have you really coped with that?
No, call me a simp, but like definitely something that's bothered me for a while is just my terrible experience with girls. Like in a romantic sense, as like, you know, my school's homecoming prom thing that they do, it's kind of weird. In like my junior year, I went with somebody, but they didn't really care for me, so it was kind of shit. Pardon the language, but they pretty much like ditched me like first minute we got there. It was the only thing that saved it is I got to play Gaston for the play, so yay. Um, and then the second one was just like I didn't go with anyone, and instead I ditched it to go play Minecraft Earth, and then cried on like a playground for like an hour. So I just think back on those things and other times where like, for example, like when a girl liked me, but then like I messed it up because I was just too scared about it, like because that usually doesn't happen, or like when I go full incel mode and stuff like that, and I'm just like, wow, like I wish I could change that because now it's something that maybe no one else is gonna remember, but I'll definitely remember, and maybe God will judge me for it. I don't know.
I don't really look back at high school and have any regrets. I think my biggest regret, and one of the biggest mental health things, was breaking up during COVID and having to do it over FaceTime. I regret some of the things I said because it was emotional. It was my first real girlfriend for almost 2 years, and it was really hard for me to break up with her because we really did love each other. It wasn't really just like the high school fling where you guys were just like hormonal and all that kind of stuff. It was like we actually genuinely loved each other and we talked about our problems and worked it out. But it's still the first relationship. You will never get your first relationship right because it's just not statistically impossible. It's just that idea that it's just so hard to get something right the first try, especially as complex as love in a relationship. I regret some of the things I said and some of the things I did after because, she said she wanted to be friends, and I immediately went to being friendship mode. I'm like, hey, so now that we're friends, you just want to like hang out and like just like work on some homework together. But I'm like, and then she was just like, no, I just kind of need some more time. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I just immediately pushed that friendship on because like I just kind of forced myself to refuse to let us, take some time off to heal and to, deal with a breakup until a couple weeks in. And then I was like, wow, maybe I need some time to heal. So I regret how the breakup went because it wasn't really smooth because, it's over FaceTime because of COVID and all that stuff. But, now we're on pretty good terms. We're, pretty good, or not pretty good friends. We're friends right now. But I do regret the way that we both handled the breakup, and I really hope it doesn't affect us. But it was definitely a hard thing to think about looking at high school and thinking about some of my regrets. But that was kind of literally the tail end of high school, and like that's the ending of that summer. But I'm glad I can look back at high school and have very few regrets, other than I guess my first 2 years of high school. I barely tried. I went into junior year with a 2.3 GPA just because I was like, oh, high school is just going to be easy as middle school because middle school is just easy because it's just, you know, easy homework assignments because your brain is still developing and it's hard to grasp algebra and conceptualize, derivatives and stuff until your brain is developed enough to really understand that. But
Yeah.
for band, we had solo juries, and I didn't turn in a single one for the first 2 years, and I of course had band for 3 tries. So that was 6 times I didn't turn in a jury, and the juries were 30% of your grade. So I immediately could have only gotten a 70% or C in that class, and that just tanked my GPA. And I didn't study for any of my tests. I didn't do the homework just because it was like, oh, I don't need to do it. It's fine, but it adds up so fast. But I'll attribute it to me growing up and getting a job, as well as me finding my girlfriend at the time. I really matured in junior year and got, straight A's and B's, and I think I got maybe like one C plus, like one and like a couple, maybe like one or two C's, just because I tried the best, but like economics and AP calculus is still not an easy course. But I regret not trying. But at the same time, I'm in the position where, again, I'm going to community college because I got the money for it. It allows me to pursue other stuff while also working on my PhD. So I was able to kind of regret it less because community colleges are a lot more lenient when it comes to your current GPA and stuff.
Hey, thank you. So we're around the hour mark right now. Uh, so I'm just going to wrap it real quickly. Hey, Sean, thank you
Hmm.
for coming in on such short notice and talking about just online schooling with us. This has been the first episode of the Big Brain Podcast. If you would like to figure out specifically what we talked about in no particular order, it's going to be in the description because I wrote it all down. And I'll be linking
Okay.
the YouTuber that Lucas brought up earlier as well. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.